On behalf of TCS ION today, I welcome you all to this new topic in the webinar, ICT for Inclusive Education. Inclusive education, as we all know, it recommends that each student is provided with equitable and efficient access to education within the framework of a mainstream educational system and not in an isolated system. There are now substantial international and national guidelines and policies in support of ICT model. But for many countries, achieving this ideal is proving to be a difficult task. Inclusive education is not a synonym of special needs education or integration techniques, but it is an ongoing process in an ever-evolving education system, focusing on those currently excluded from accessing education, as well as those who are in school, but they are not learning. Accessible ICTs have a major role to play in enabling educational authorities, educators, students, and parents to move towards a more inclusive educational system. However, its role as a communication aid, a pedagogical tool, and a means of access to previously inaccessible learning materials is still beginning to be explored. In this session, we have invited two distinguished experts to understand the significance of ICT for inclusive learning. It's my pleasure and honor to welcome and introduce our guest speakers tonight. The first speaker we have with us today is Dr. P. Malinga. Dr. Malinga is working as an associate professor and head in charge of Center for Education, Media and Technology, National Institute of Technical Teachers Training and Research, Taramani, Chennai. She has 28 years of experience in teaching as well as research and development. Her areas of interest in training includes databases, ICT-enabled learning and teaching, instructional design, e-learning, and open education. She has published as many as 20 research papers in national and international journals and conferences in the area of computer science and engineering, ICT-based education and training, and educational technology. She has contributed to leading consultancy projects for producing multimedia international materials on computer networks, producing 10 CBTs on 10 different subjects of computer science, producing studio-based video lectures on computer science subjects for satellite-based education through Gyan Darshan. She has authored a self-instructional material on instructional design for e-learning in MCA distance program for Anna University. She has also conducted 350 courses for polytechnic and engineering college teachers in the areas of computer science and educational technology. Top it all, she has trained around 400 overseas teachers in the areas of information technology, educational video production, and educational media production for e-learning. Welcome, Dr. Malinga. Next, I welcome Dr. Subhash Chandar. Dr. Subhash Chandar is the Assistant Professor at Central Institute of Education in the Department of Education, University of Delhi. He was teacher in charge in the Department of Education, Lady Irving College, University of Delhi. His areas of research and teaching include science education, inclusive education, and educational technology. He received his PhD on inclusive education from Central Institute of Education. He is a council member for Education Technology and Management Academy. He is a member of various committees in NCERT, CBSE, NCTE, and NIOS, and also the author of Teaching Science to Learners with Visual Impairment. He has also co-authored many books. Here are a few to name: Teacher Education in the 21st Century, Comprehensive Study of OER in NSOU and OSOU SEMCA, and Developments in Information and Communication Technology for Inclusive Learning. Heartiest welcome to you, Dr. Chandar, to share your views on the topics chosen today. So let us start with you, Dr. Malinga. The basic concept of ICT for inclusive learning is the effort made to include the children with a range of physical, sensory, communication, or cognitive disabilities in both learning as well as wider social opportunities. Could you share your views on this, ma'am?
Thank you. Namaste. Uh, Thank you, Mr. Nareshpal and Mrs. Mutilda, for giving me an opportunity to share my views on ICT and inclusive education. The use of ICT is widely recognized as an everyday part of many people's life and has an impact on many aspects of society, including education, training, and employment. Like significant effort and investment has been put into maximizing the benefit of ICT within the education and training across developed and developing nations. Like COVID-19 pandemic has given many lessons to the world. More than 1.5 billion students from pre-primary to university level have been affected by these closures, with a classroom-based learning interrupted for indefinite periods of time. While some education systems, teachers, students, parents were somewhat prepared to adapt to the existing distance learning programs and platforms, millions were not. Without adequate ICT devices, internet and mobile network access, educational resources, and teacher training, students simply cannot partake in distance education to continue on their learning trajectories. Like students from resource poor areas, remote rural areas, and low income households are the most left behind. Taking learners with disabilities or those who use a different language in the home than in the school will require more individualized support. So, considering the impact on the right to education from a global perspective, it is evident through research how this COVID-19 have exacerbated the inequalities and the pre-existing problem in education system around the world. See, like inclusive education, which is defined by UNESCO, is about putting the right to education into action by reaching out to all learners, irrespective of their diverse needs, abilities, characteristics, eliminating all form of discrimination in learning environment. Of course, ICT is a particularly valuable tool for people with disabilities and can improve the quality of life, reducing social inclusion and increasing participation. See, as ICT is reaching mainstream in learning and it supports multimodal learners, there is often need for additional technology to provide access for the people with disability called the assistive technology. See, for most people, technology makes things easier. For people with disabilities, technology makes things possible. In a broad sense, assistive technology is any device, a piece of equipment, or a system that helps a person with a disability work around his challenges so that he can learn, he can communicate, or simply function better. Students with disabilities like dyslexia can use electronic worksheets or talking calculator to complete their assignments. On some other worksheets, like text to speech or speech synthesizing technology is even available. For many children with learning disabilities, reading and writing can be a challenge. Phonetic spelling software is designed to automatically convert the students' typing into words that they intend to write. With audiobooks, students can follow along in their text and overcome the reading disabilities or difficulties. See, everyone has a different learning style and cognitive styles, and many students struggle with understanding the auditory lectures. For these students, a variable speed recorder is an ideal solution. Like autistic children and other children with learning disabilities may struggle to figure out normal social interaction. For them, videotaped social interaction students can learn important life skills and social behavior without accidentally offending someone. See, this assistive technology can be simple to complex. Like I can say, it can be a simple equipment or it can be a software, or it can be a system. For a person with mobility problems, even a walking stick, crutch, walking frame, manual powered wheelchair, tricycle, artificial legs, so many things like corner chair, supportive seat, then standing frame, adapted cutlery and cooking utensils, dressing stick, so many like a toilet seat, frame, feeding robot, all these. Like people for the vision disabilities, eyeglasses, magnifier, magnifying software for computer, white can, then GPS-based navigation devices, barely system for reading and writing. Many things are there. Like for auditory or for hearing disability, headphones, amplified telephones, then communication cards with text communication, boards with letters, symbols, or pictures. Like for cognition disability, task list, because they don't remember. So task lists, picture schedule, calendar, picture-based instruction, timer, automatic reminder, smartphone with adapted task list, calendars, audio recorders, all these adapted toys and games. See, by facilitating the participation and inclusion of children with disability in all aspects of life, assistive technology can impact on self-image, self-esteem, and sense of self-worth. However, such technology is not always possible due to the products or service related barriers. I can say lack of awareness, lack of governance, including legislation, policies, national programs, then lack of services, products, lack of human resource, and inaccessible environment. So this is what I would like to share my views on ICT and inclusive education. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So beautifully put. For disabled, technology makes learning possible. This is such a highlight of what you said, and also the lists that you gave. We don't even realize how important a task list is, unless it is so important for the people with cognitive disabilities. Thank you so much, ma'am, for that view you shared. So we'll jump on to Dr. Subhash Chandra. Based on your research and experience, sir, in Indian context, could you elaborate how teachers and children can get the most out of inclusive learning?
Namaskar, all of you, and thank you for the invitation. It's a wonderful question to begin with, and Dr. Maliga has given a wonderful introduction about how ICT can be used for children with disability. Now, when you talk about inclusive education, we have to understand that in Indian context, this journey to inclusive education has been a long journey. We started with integration, where getting access was difficult in many schools for some of the learners with disability. But with time, with activism, and with a lot of policy changes, we have got inclusion in our policy. And with inclusion being practiced and being promoted at policy level and at different program levels, in schools there has been a lot of changes. Now, people started to realize, including teachers, parents, and everybody else who is related with education, they started to realize that inclusion is not just beneficial for children with special needs or children with disability. Inclusion is beneficial to all the students. So there are a lot of researches which are done especially in last 2 decades, where we have seen that there are a lot of positive short-term as well as long-term effects for all the students who are there in an inclusive class. Now, I will talk about the benefit to the students first, because when we talk about education, it is mainly meant for the students. And talking about the children with disability, it has been a boon to be part of an inclusive system where it is not just the access which is given to them, it is also the respect which is also given to them. So they have a system where they are part of a community which actually they see in the actual real world. And it is true for other students also who are there in the classroom already, because now they have a society or a community, they're part of a community which makes them realize how the actual world is. So what has increased in the inclusive classroom is the diversity. Now with the increased diversity in the classroom, students are aware about strengths and weaknesses of other individuals also, their peer group. So when they learn in a community where they share with each other, they are better equipped to deal with this diversity. They are better equipped to be promoting each other's strengths and better equipped to deal with the challenges which others are facing. So it is, it gives a lot of strength to the learning environment in the classroom. Second thing is, with this fostering of culture of inclusiveness in the classroom, the parents also gets benefit out of it, because parents are also part of the community here, and with parents becoming participants of the schooling system, it again helps the learners. They are contributing more towards the cause of the schooling and learning also. And third, again, one of the most important pillars of education is the teachers. Teachers earlier, were not teaching to a diverse classroom. With the increase in diversity of the classroom, they have also become aware about the strengths and weaknesses of all the other individuals. They have also realized that different individuals have different learning styles, and they learn at a different speed, and they learn differently. So with this exposure, increase in exposure, the teachers have also increased their efforts. And with this increase in efforts, they have realized that they need to practice differentiated instructions, they need to use universal designs of learnings, they have to use multisensorial approach, and there is something called individualized education plan also. So now there are more collaborations also. They know how to collaborate with each other, how to make learners sit with each other and use each other's strengths and be partners in learning. So the opportunities of practicing and evolving different learning strategies, which are impactful in an inclusive atmosphere, and in turn again give food to the inclusive atmosphere, it has increased with time. So I think inclusion has been one of the most wonderful things which has happened to the learning in Indian context, not just for the students but for the teachers also.
I think our viewers will have such a positive takeaway from this talk, Dr. Chandar. Definitely, they will find context in what they are listening. I'm sure they'll share it wide across, that there is context for every person living here in the society to listen to this talk. Thank you so much, Dr. Chandar, for sharing your views. So we'll come back to Dr. Maliga now. Dr. Maliga, with your best experience, could you share how can teachers develop and design the school, the classroom, the programs and activities so that all the students learn and participate together in the learning?
Yeah, like when inclusion was first discussed with the educational setting, putting ramps at building entrance, installing lift so that the wheelchair user would access the upper floors. Okay, most recently only, many commentators have begun to talk of inclusion in much wider sense to cover what is sometimes described as a social inclusion, that is inclusion regardless of gender, age, sex, sexuality, then disability or class. Like you could have heard about it, JSS Polytechnic for Differently Abled was the first and only polytechnic of its kind in India, which was set up in 1999 to provide formal professional education at diploma level exclusively for differently abled person. Like 6 diploma programs like on architecture, commercial practice, computer science and engineering, jewelry design and technology, electronics and communication engineering, and computer application for visually impaired. These programs, these 6 diploma programs are being approved by AICTE and the government of Karnataka. I can say that out of these, jewelry technology and computer application impaired programs offered this polytechnic. See, inclusion is actually stronger concept which refers to the should then be a long process as professors see and strong conviction by all those involved in students' education, first and foremost, like education reports, sufficient knowledge of sufficient use of technology, lack of information on existing software are the 3 main to use of technology. And most staff need training in order to be informed regarding the techniques of all students, including those with. See, in NITTTR, we train technical teachers in content updation, social, educational programs or 1 or 2 weeks duration with residential mode. During pandemic, we started to offer our training programs purely online, blended with synchronous and asynchronous from the month of May 2020. In one of our courses, during the feedback session, we were moved by the speech given by 2 participants. One of them were a lecturer working in a polytechnic college in Karnataka. He is physically disabled and he has never attended any training program due to his physical disability. He cried out and expressed how ICT has enabled him to learn and upgrade the new knowledge and the skill. So that made us to think we were not actually focusing for all type of learners. Okay, so that was impact which has created on us to how to provide and how to use this ICT for all type of learners, including this physical and other type of disabilities.
Thank you so much,
ma'am. Yeah, good. Thank you.
Yeah. So definitely eye-opening. ICT has a wider work to do, a big task list to cover. We'll move on to Dr. Chandar with this thought. So, sir, what are the most successful and relevant strategies for using ICTs to change the pedagogical practices?
Yes, with the exponential growth of ICT which we have seen in last few decades, things have changed drastically in education. We now, especially in last 5 years, if you will see, with the increase in connectivity, we have seen there are a lot of changes in learning, the way we learn and how the schools are using these technologies. And with the pandemic, everybody was forced to shift to a completely online pattern of learning, which actually actually convinced all the stakeholders that technology is not such a bad thing to happen to education. So the basic reluctance has also changed, from the most reluctant academicians and teachers who were not ready to use technology earlier. And we now see there are a lot of patterns in changing pattern in terms of use of ICT in schools as well as in other learning platforms. See, as I told you earlier, that teachers in inclusive classroom use multisensorial approach. They are expected to use universal design of learning. They should also use differentiated instructions apart from the regular methodologies which they were using. And with the new technologies which are there, I think technologies have enabled them to use these methods more appropriately. For example, universal designs of learning, assistive technologies which we use for learners with visual impairment, and for example, the software like JAWS, which are there, which and are now part of all the devices. Similar softwares are developed by the software developers, which are now part of these devices, and every device has this talking back facility now, including the handheld devices. So this technology is not just useful for learner with visual impairment. This technology will be useful, as Dr. Mallika also talked about, that will be useful for learners with learning disability also, because they can now read the textbook again and again by listening. Okay, so you may have heard about DAISY. These experiments have been done in last few years, and these textbooks are again similar kind of textbooks are developed by NCERT also, where you have talking textbooks available for all the learners. And we know that a learner learns better if he has multi-sensorial inputs for a particular information. So now you have audible books also. Okay, so if you have audible books, they are useful for a learner with visual impairment as well as for others also. So it is universally designed, universally applicable, and has larger benefit for learning also, because they address the multi-sensorial inputs which are there. So this is just one example. There are so many other examples which are there. For example, artificial intelligence. Now there is a lot of research which is going on in developed countries, and we are also doing in our university related to how artificial intelligence can be used for learning in an inclusive classroom. So we have Alexa, we have Google Assistant, which can be used for language learning. And when we talk about Alexa and Google Assistant, what are the benefits? See, what the benefits are: individualized learning. The benefits are the teacher is not required every time for answering the student. So if, for example, if a child or a learner wants to learn some basics of language, then these devices can be very helpful. So it is not just restricted to child with disability. It is useful for every learner. But yes, definitely for a child with learning disability, this kind of input can be very crucial. And it is not just easing the way of learning. It is also crucial also for their development. So it is very important that we, as an institution, as a teacher, we use these researches which are taking place in our Indian context also. And as a practitioner, we need to see these being implemented in their schools with all the learners. So this is the hope from a researcher and an academician. Thank you, Mudita.
We hope that that this hope comes true, sir, and I'm sure that we are working towards it. Dr. Maliga, we come back to you. So we want to talk about the special issues and challenges related to the creation, the dissemination, and the use of the curricular content with respect to inclusive education. So, what are these challenges and issues that ICT faces?
Teaching and learning in 21st century requires teachers and students to integrate ICT to enhance the current curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment approach, as well as to transform the teaching and learning. See, there is a paradigm shift from teacher-centric to the learner-centric. So the role of the teacher has changed from the sage on the stage to the guide by the side. And in particularly, if you take higher education, not even guide by the side, we call them as co-constructor of learning, isn't it? Like while most education systems agree that ICT has a potential to transform teaching and learning, attention has been given recently to the challenges, how to measure and evaluate and impact that ICT is having on teaching and learning. Like if you see this inclusive education, no? When you take the building up of inclusive classroom is a considerable challenge, mainly because it entitles bringing challenges to innovation to teaching and learning. An overall innovation educational approach is required, and new aspect of educational resources need to be taken into account. So a teacher not only produces the classes, that is in the classes she or he delivers the lecture. In addition to that, they have to cater to different learning needs of the students. So as we call them as a multimodal learners, okay, like Professor was saying, as multisensory. So multimodal learners has to be catered by different ways like audio, video, supportive materials and all those things. So fostering the development of more flexible curricula, pedagogical plan structure and its content, all this has to be provisioned in so that the overall idea of inclusion underpinning the whole plan, and then the learner specific needs to be met, the accessibility features, then the ICT tools at hand, then ICT tools as a means for inclusion, the ICT, that is inclusive practices to be adopted. So all these has to be taken care. Since inclusion requires new approaches to teaching and learning, as well as the use of valuable, new, suitable, and barrier-free tools, it is fundamental to give teachers appropriate advice and support to face the challenges. In fact, the process of inclusion can be fostered by means of new technology tools. It requires, in turn, changes and modification in educational content, approaches, structures, and strategies. One size will not fit all, isn't it? For example, like for an examination time is extended by half an hour for an visually impaired person. Plays a very at these ends. Education cannot cross the school threshold without their deep and active involvement, and educational effectiveness of any technology means mainly depends upon the choice they make. Hence, in order to make a significant step forward, e-tools need to be carefully selected and their use need to be appropriately planned and conceptually well integrated in the mainstream activities. I was offering a course on Swayam platform, and the end exam was through the proctored exams, and it was conducted by NTA. So there was a call from one of my participants who took those courses online. So he said, Madam, is there any possible for a visual impaired person to bring a scribe for that exam? See, that really I know that university exams allows to do that, but I was not aware whether this NTA will be able to do it. Actually, I went and searched all those details. Then I found that yes, there was policies, guidelines, which was given by Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, that is the Department of Empowerment for Persons with Disabilities. So all these guidelines are there.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So, Dr. Chandar, although ma'am has spoken about a few solutions also to the challenges that she spoke about, would you like to add something with any examples that you may have successfully, implemented?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, with these challenges of creation, dissemination, and curriculum, as Dr. Maliga pointed out, that flexibility is the main idea. That there has to be a flexible approach which we need to follow in terms of content creation, content dissemination, and how they're used in curriculum by the teachers. So apart from what she has said, I would like to add that one of the most important aspects to deal with these challenges, the challenges which are associated with these aspects, is collaboration amongst stakeholders. Because unless we have collaboration among stakeholders, especially teachers, we will be, every time again, we will be digging the same hole again and again and again, which is not going to reap benefit. So the most important aspect is to create platforms where teachers can come together and collaborate, number one. So by collaboration, we mean that they can virtually come together on a platform and share the kind of resources which they have developed. For example, in our university, we created a platform which was open for all the teachers, where they could share what they have developed with respect to pedagogy in particular subject. So we have to visualize such different platforms where collaboration is possible among teachers, where they work in an inclusive environment with their students. They develop some content and then share it on a common platform. And from this common platform, they should have something to take away also. So if we have 100 teachers, 1,000 teachers, content creators who work together on few of the topics, concepts which are there, then I think we will have multiple resources available for the content which majority of the times the teachers say that we do not have time to create new pedagogies, new experiments, new resources for our learners. So majority of the times what they will do, if we'll have a larger content, we'll have a larger platform, then definitely these teachers will have something which is available, ready-made for them, and then they can do certain kind of accommodation in that and use it with their learners. So it is important that the second thing which I want to suggest is that teachers should also do action researches, because when the teachers get engaged with small action researches with their learners in their institutions, they would be working on live examples, live challenges, and on live solutions. And then if we have platforms where we can support, and definitely ICT has a major role in this, because now we can see the connectivity has increased so much that teacher is not required to travel from one place to another. So within blink of an eye, we have people who are engaged in different specialties and different subject areas, and with different knowledge of different type of skills. If the teacher has some challenge during that action research, that teacher can go back and using these ICT platforms and can work on any of the aspects. If the teacher is finding problem in dissemination, the teacher has support through ICT there. So it is very important to build networks. It is very important that we use the technology which is available to us. Now, with the mobile phones and the networks which are there, so this is another suggestion. I think we can have a smaller group of networks also. And these networks can be used by the teachers for each other's benefit. And larger platforms like SWAYAM and NPTEL are already there. We need to have something like them also, and we need to have smaller collaborations with institutions which are already working in this field, and they can come together, join hands, and work on certain action research based solutions also. So I think every aspect from content creation to implementation in the classroom or in their institution, to revision and giving feedback, all these aspects can be covered with help of these platforms and collaboration. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So we have spoken about the introduction, the issues and challenges, the implementation. What about the outcome of ICT in inclusive learning? How can we measure the outcomes of ICT used by teachers? And what, according to you, are the factors and areas that need to be assessed? Dr. Maliga.
Yes. According to various studies, it is clear that ICT are used differently in different contexts, and hence it becomes difficult to measure its impact. However, the most discussed policy question with respect to ICT implementation and its impact on educational outcomes, like many studies have categorized that ICT impacts are oriented towards social economical factors. Major impact component are access and usage. Literature also relieved that when computers and internets are used in classes, ICT have a strong motivational effect and positive effect on behavioral, communication and process skills. So the first step to measure the impact is to derive the primary and secondary indicators that contribute to the ICT implementation. See, as per the study conducted by UNESCO Institute of Statistics, the parameters like infrastructure access, ICT use, teacher training, then ICT support, qualitative factors for assessing progress, then quantitative data, timing of monitoring and impact assessment are to be considered as a primary indicators. Of course, ICT increases student engagement, which leads to increased amount of students spend working outside the classes time, and hence motivation and engagement could be considered as a secondary indicators. So indicators are required to show the relationship between the technological use and the educational performance. See, although action research relieves that ICT can empower teachers and learners, providing a learning environment that helps address different learning styles, foster the development of 21st century skills. Current peer-reviewed studies to support these beliefs are still limited. Many people have started doing this action research, but at the large, it is very difficult to get a peer-reviewed study to support this one. See, this UNESCO, again, I would like to bring it to the interest of the audience. The UNESCO study of statistics, for statistics, is mandated to administer international data collection on availability, use of impact of ICT in education through establishment of internationally comparable policy relevant indicators. This contributes towards benchmarking and monitoring the integration and access of ICT in education. which are fundamental for the policymaker to select priorities and adopt and develop policies. The Sustainable Goal Development, we call it as SDGs, and the proposed, actually the Sustainable Development Goals 4 is for the inclusive education. And the proposed monitoring framework acknowledge the importance of ICT in education. Like build and upgrade education facilities that are child, disability, gender sensitive, and provide safe, non-violent, inclusive, effective learning environment for all. That is what it says. As an indicator is a piece of information which communicates a present state or a trend or a warning or a progress to the audience. So there can be different types of indicators like input indicators and then outcome indicators. Like when you say input indicators, it can take the type of ICT equipment, software used, organization design features deployed in the classroom or outside. And outcome indicators can be like teachers impart the knowledge, skill, that is the cognitive skills, affective and attitudinal things. And then the national educational and social economical indicators can also be taken into consideration. That is education enrollment rate, gross domestic product, human development indicators. So if you look into it, there are more than 45 parameters given in this, given by UNESCO to consider and to study the impact of ICT in education, that too particularly for inclusive education. So program evaluators should actually concentrate on measures of student and teacher learning. The learning measures, actually instead of just pointing out only those parameters, they should concentrate on the measures of how it has helped them. Okay, the learning measures that are likely to be more sensitive to ICT supported tools are those with custom designed for the program. So these customized assessments should include measures of learning that are likely to result from systematic use of ICT. Like
so that actually brings me to the next part of the question,
yes.
Where these outcomes, how do they help? How do they become useful for teacher development?
Like evaluators.
I would like Dr. Subhash Chandra to answer that, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
See, I think very important points are reiterated by Dr. Maliga here. And now we have to understand that ICT enabled professional development of teachers has been done in last few years, and with this the number of reaching possibilities of reaching out to more number of teachers has increased. And with the access of technology and with this access to more training and education related to ICT based pedagogies assessment, I think teachers have benefited in multiple ways. And I will take an example of one of the exercises which we did in last few years with the Education Technology and Management Academy ATMA, which is run by Professor Mukhopadhyay. We worked on flipped blended learning designs, and we gave training to hundreds of teachers from different institutions related to flipped blended learning designs, which are definitely ICT based FBLD designs. And it was not a completely face-to-face training. We used ICT based training modules, and there was definitely some component of face-to-face interaction with the teachers also. But then the initial part where we reached out to the teachers, we gave them videos, we gave them modules where using those self-learning modules, they were able to create learning designs for their classroom, including an inclusive classroom in their respective subjects. And they shared those designs with us through ICT-based platforms. And after that, we had a face-to-face interaction with them. And again, they created learning designs, which was again evaluated by other experts. See, the access has increased for the teachers, because now they will not take a feedback from just us. It was a feedback from experts from different fields in their respective subjects, from different part of the country and from outside the country also. And with this feedback, the teachers were able to get real-time support also. And with this real-time support, the teachers were more enthusiastic in working with their learners also, because they had something new to look up to. Because and they thought that fine, earlier it was just they were working in the classroom. Even if something new they tried, there was no mechanism for them to get a good feedback on what kind of work they have done. Now it is possible to have live feedback from the experts even. So it is just that we have to create those possibilities with the teachers and create those platforms for them. So the feedback mechanism has changed. The teacher training, professional development has changed, and the whole paradigm of learning is going to change in coming time, because now the information is not an issue. I think everybody has to understand this in education, that information which was considered to be gold earlier in our education system is of no value now, because in the current system of education, information is available in abundance. So the teacher has to play a very different kind of role, and the professional development program also, they also have to play a very different kind of role. So if we want them to create contextualized, individualized education programs for inclusive classrooms, it is very important that ICT plays its role, and those who are developing these programs should utilize these developments, and should be aware that information has to be used differently, and the teacher should know how to refine that information and use it more effectively in their context. It cannot be the traditional approach which we have been using in our training and in education system. We have to move beyond it, and we have to look for the next 10 years where things are going to be drastically different. So we need to think about, as Professor Mallika said, that student engagement has changed, and their way of learning has changed. So we also need to design programs, teaching pedagogies differently, and teachers needs to be prepared differently for that. Yes, thank you.
So such a beautiful session. We have come to the end of it, and from sage on the stage to guide by the side, a beautiful phrase that ma'am used. The agile methodology that you're talking about, Dr. Chandar, such wonderful takeaways from the session. Thank you so much for collaborating with us, and I hope the teachers on the ground, they collaborate with each other and make a better education system here. Thank you so much, all of you, for attending the session.
Thank you for the opportunity given to share our views on ICT and inclusive education. There are more things to talk about it. Time is less. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
I know the talk could be endless. This is about education.
Yes, we have just touched upon few things. These are very superficially, because these are very core issues, and there are a lot of core issues which are left. So hopefully we'll have some more interactions in future.
Definitely, this gives us an opportunity to meet up again, sir and ma'am. We'll probably reconvene again and take it up further with a new set of questions. Thank you so much. So we call it a day.